Hello everybody, my name is Ricky. I'm giving you another video about my predictions and analysis of the June boxing bouts that we have scheduled. Two of these are taking place today, later this evening. It's George Kambosos versus Devin Haney. That's going to be for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world down in Melbourne, Australia. The one later after that is going to actually be Stephen Fulton against Daniel Roman, where Fulton is going to be defending his WBC and WBO junior featherweight titles. The following one is on Tuesday, which I think is kind of a shame because I think this fight is very underrated. Is Naoya Inoue against Nonito Donaire, where Inoue is going to put his IBF WBA titles on the line, with Donaire putting his WBC title on the line. The following one after that is 2 weeks from today, which is the unified champion Artur Beterbiev. He's a WBC IBF championship champion, taking on Joe Smith Jr., who just recently won the WBO title. That's going to be up at light heavyweight, and that's taking place 2 weeks from today on June 18th. So first fight we're going to talk about is Kambosos versus Haney. I think this is actually a pretty good matchup. They're both pretty technical fighters, neither of which, when I see them fight, tends to like overextend unless... I mean, I think Kambosos be willing to be a little bit more of a firefighter for sure. I think Devin is a little bit more technically sound, a little bit rangier, more defensively responsible. But I think they're both very good technical fighters. A power edge, I might give a slight edge to Kambosos, but I think the thing with boxing is that timing usually tends to overcome speed or power, especially if you can hit somebody when they don't see it coming. So I don't see that being too much of a factor inside of this fight. For my prediction, I'm going to go ahead and go with Devin Haney by unanimous decision. There was a lot of things about Bill Haney not being able to be there for the fight going on, and I think it was Zab Judah, if I'm not mistaken, that was going to be taking over the training responsibilities. But I think based off of what I've seen from the previous fights, I mean, Kambosos, you got him fighting Mickey Bay, Lee Selby, and then Teofimo Lopez. Haney's most recent ones is Gamboa, and then he fought Jojo Diaz, and then before that he fought Jorge Linares, which I thought were all good separate fights compared to the competition he was fighting before. This is actually a really good meeting point for both of these two fighters. They're coming off a pretty good stretch of wins, so... again, for my prediction, I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Devin Haney for a unanimous decision, and he's going to end up being the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. The next fight we have is the unified WBC WBO junior featherweight champion Stephen Fulton defending against Daniel Roman. I think this is actually a really good matchup. Based off what I've seen of their previous fights, Fulton, I got the chance to watch his fight against Brandon Figueroa. And I went ahead and went back to his Angelo Leo fight. I also, for Daniel Roman, I went back to watch Ricardo Espinoza Franco, and then I went back to what I would say is the biggest fight of his career so far against MJ Magnolia, where I thought he actually made a very good account for himself, and I think Magnolia is a very, very good fighter. For this matchup, particularly, I definitely see unanimous decision. Both of these guys are sub 50% knockout ratio. They're very good tactical fighters. They like to get out of range and make people miss very well. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Stephen Fulton. We're going to go unanimous decision. I'm going to have to watch the fight and obviously score it as we go. But based off what I'm thinking right now, I'm thinking it might be about a 7-5, 8-4 call for Stephen Fulton. Next fight we're going to go ahead and talk about is actually this Tuesday, which I find very underappreciated of a fight, is actually Naoya Inoue against Nonito Donaire 2. This is a rematch of their bout in November of 2019, which ended up being the 2019 fight of the year. When you look at this fight, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with it being like a firefight. Both of these guys are at a different level compared to the other guys in their weight class. I think Inoue's power, counter punching, timing, speed, just a complete boxer. And Nonito Donaire's been in the game for a long time, 39 years old. But if you see his last two fights, he doesn't look like he's aged a bit. He uses his experience to pace himself, pick out the right punches. Based off what I've seen since their original fight, I do think that this time around, Inoue is actually going to go ahead and get the better of him again. This time I do see a stoppage. First fight, I thought it was very competitive. Naoya Inoue did score a late knockdown with the body shot. I do feel if he's able to avoid like getting hit with anything big and a major injury, like how he had an orbital fracture in the first fight, he's going to go ahead and be able to secure the stoppage in this fight. Again, very competitive up to that point. but I do think he's going to end up scoring the knockout in this fight. Last fight I'm going to go ahead and talk about is actually 2 weeks from today, which is the unified champion Artur Beterbiev defending his WBC and IBF titles against Joe Smith Jr., who is the current WBO champion. Definitely a fight between two big hitting guys, guys that we've also seen both be knocked down. Joe Smith Jr. actually has one knockout loss. 28 wins, 22 knockouts, and then Artur Beterbiev with a 100% knockout ratio, currently sitting at 17 wins. Based on what I've seen in their most recent fights, I do favor Artur Beterbiev in this fight. I think some of the adversity he's had to overcome in his most recent fights, just like his forehead being cut open against Marcus Brown, is just shows the signs of his toughness. I do think Joe Smith Jr. is also a tough fighter, but I just think that he's a little bit more technically sound than Joe Smith Jr., and I think he's going to end up getting the stoppage later in this fight. Also, I do anticipate this being very competitive up to this point, but I don't see how you could put two high knockout percentage guys in the ring together and not end up seeing one of them get knocked out. So definitely going to be a good one, but for my prediction, I got Artur Beterbiev by knockout in, I'm going to say, the 8th round. So last part of this, we're just going to talk about what I think would be good for the winners of these fights that I've predicted. For the first fight, if Devin Haney ends up winning it, obviously he'd be undisputed at 135 pounds, which I think he would actually be really good, well off staying at the weight. It doesn't seem like he struggles too much to make it. I mean, obviously he could move up to 140 and then see if he could become undisputed in a second weight division. But I think for him, maybe a couple of defenses, maybe like a big fight against Gervonta Davis would be a good matchup. Ryan Garcia would also be another good matchup where I feel like today solidifying as a champion would be good, but on top of that, getting like a big name victory under his belt, as well as being the undisputed champion would go a long way for him. For the Stephen Fulton, if he's able to pull off the win against Daniel Roman today, I only see one fight in his future, which is the MJ Akhmadaliev fight. I knew I was going to butcher that. But they each hold two belts. They're both sitting up at junior featherweight, so I think that's the only fight that makes sense. After that, I think the Naoya Inoue Nonito Donaire winner, which again I predicted it to be Inoue. He can go ahead and try to chase that last belt, but I also think another good option for him too would be to move up and maybe face the winner of the Stephen Fulton Daniel Roman fight, or the MJ Akhmadaliev against Stephen Fulton if that ends up happening. I do see him being able to carry the weight up to that high junior featherweight. I don't see that being too much of a problem for him. And I think it would be a great matchup whether he ends up fighting Stephen Fulton, Akhmadaliev. If Daniel Roman ends up pulling out the win and he fights him, I think that'd be a good matchup as well. And then for the last one, if Beterbiev ends up pulling out the win against Joe Smith Jr., I think the fight that makes sense for him is definitely to face Dimitri Bivol, so that they could go ahead and go for the undisputed light heavyweight championship of the world, which we know based off of his last attempt that would be a good draw to try to see if he could secure a fight against the biggest name of the sport, which is Saul Canelo Alvarez. So I definitely would say that that'd be a solid next step for him to go for that Dimitri Bivol fight if he ends up winning. Thank you again for watching. Again, for all the fighters that I mentioned in this video, I do have the utmost respect for them for just having the willingness and the courage to go into a ring. And obviously all these guys are doing it at the highest level. So this is, again, my analysis and unbiased predictions of what I believe the results are going to be for, I would say, as of right now, the first half of the June matchups. I was taking a look at the calendar. There are some very good matchups coming up later on in the month, which I'll go ahead and pencil in. And then obviously, as we go in towards the end of the year, July, August, we'll go ahead and try to create an analysis and prediction for all the marquee matchups coming up. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy the rest of your night.